Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into something new? Today we're tackling strategic sourcing,
Strategic
but
sourcing.
we're going beyond just defining it. We're going deep on how it actually works. And we've got a fantastic guide from Globelink Sourcing to help us.
They really are experts in this, by the way. Global sourcing, that's their thing.
Perfect. So no better place to start, right?
Yeah.
So what they emphasize right away is that strategic sourcing, it's all about aligning, like really aligning your sourcing with your big picture business goals.
Yeah, it's not just about like making a one-off purchase.
Right. So it's not just about like, oh, we need paper clips, let's find the cheapest ones.
Exactly. It's about, okay, what are we trying to achieve as a business and how can our sourcing decisions actually help us get there?
It's a whole different way of thinking about it, isn't it?
It really is, and it's so crucial in today's market. It's about getting that competitive edge.
Okay, so competitive edge, I like the sound of that. But Globelink mentions cost reduction a lot, which obviously saving money is always good, but it's not as simple as just, pinching pennies, right?
Right. It's not about just going for the absolute cheapest option every single time.
There's got to be more to it than that.
It's about strategic cost reduction. It's about leveraging your buying power, finding those hidden savings that other companies might miss.
Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so think about things like volume discounts. Are you taking advantage of those? Or maybe exploring different pricing models with your suppliers.
Okay, so it's more about maximizing value, not just like slashing prices to the bone,
Exactly.
which I think makes sense long term. And speaking of things that make sense long term, Globelink really stresses risk management. That's a biggie.
Huge.
So how does strategic sourcing help with that, with managing risk?
So think about all the things that could disrupt your supply chain.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Right. Like, what if a major supplier suddenly can't deliver? Or there's some kind of quality issue?
Nightmare.
Exactly. Strategic sourcing helps you anticipate those risks, put plans in place so you're not caught off guard.
So it's about being proactive, not just reactive.
100%.
That's a relief to hear, honestly. But I'm really curious about this whole supplier relationship management thing. What's so special about that?
Okay, so we talked about moving beyond just one-off transactions. This is where that really comes into play.
Okay, so it's about more than just like placing an order and hoping for the best.
Right. It's about building actual relationships with your suppliers.
Okay, so like what? We should be sending them birthday cards.
Maybe. But seriously, it's about collaboration, working together to find solutions that benefit everyone involved.
Interesting. So it's less about like squeezing them for the lowest price and more about finding that win-win.
Exactly. And that can lead to some really cool things. Think innovation, better quality, a more stable supply chain overall.
Okay, I'm liking where this is going. But Globelink, they lay out a pretty detailed roadmap, almost like a step-by-step guide to strategic sourcing success.
It's super helpful. And it starts with really understanding your own needs.
Like, what do we absolutely have to make this product or service a reality?
Yes. And why are those needs important? What can be flexible? It's about being crystal clear on what you're trying to achieve.
So no more just winging it, huh?
No more winging it.
Okay, so once you know what you need, then it's time to hit the ground running, right? Go out there and find the perfect suppliers.
Well, not so fast.
Oh,
There's more. It's research time. You have to understand the supplier landscape. Who's out there? What are their strengths and weaknesses? Do they align with your values?
so it's like dating, but for suppliers.
Kind of. You're looking for the best fit, the partners who are going to help you succeed.
Okay, so you've done your homework, you've got your short list of potential partners. What's next?
Now you develop the actual strategy. What are your specific goals for sourcing? Are you aiming for cost savings, top-notch quality, maybe a combination? And what are the criteria you're going to use to evaluate those suppliers based on everything you've learned?
Okay, so no more dartboard decision-making when it comes to choosing suppliers.
Exactly. This is about making strategic, informed decisions that are going to set you up for success.
Love it. But this isn't just a set it and forget it kind of thing,
Well,
right?
you have to constantly be evaluating and managing those supplier relationships. Make sure things are running smoothly, look for ways to improve.
It's like a garden. You got to tend to it if you want it to thrive.
That's this analogy.
This is all starting to click. We're talking about building a more resilient, efficient, even, dare I say, enjoyable sourcing process. But what's the real payoff here? Why go through all this effort for strategic sourcing?
Well, beyond just saving money, Think about the potential for higher quality goods and services. Remember all that research we talked about? You're finding the best of the best.
Not just the cheapest.
Exactly. And those strong relationships you build, those can lead to some seriously cool things. Increased innovation, smoother operations, even a boost to your sustainability efforts.
Okay, I'm sold. This is way more than just some procurement buzzword.
Right.
Strategic sourcing. It can actually transform your whole business.
100%.
But let's be real, it's not always going to be easy, right? I mean, GlobeLink does point out some common challenges.
For sure. And one of the biggest ones is resistance to change. People get used to doing things a certain way.
It's that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But sometimes, even if it ain't completely broken, there's a whole lot of room for improvement.
Exactly.
And I imagine data management can be a beast, especially for larger organizations.
Oh, absolutely. You've got contracts, supplier information, performance data. It can be overwhelming.
So how do you even begin to wrangle all that information?
That's where having the right technology and systems in place is crucial.
Right. We don't want to drown in a sea of data.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's always that element of supplier risk.
Ah, yes. The what-ifs that keep you up at night.
Exactly. Like, can we really trust these suppliers? Are they who they say they are?
So how do we tackle these challenges? Is there, like, a secret weapon? A strategic sourcing silver bullet?
I wish. But it's more about having the right tools, strategies, and mindset in place.
Okay, so spill the beans. How do we do this thing?
Communication is key, especially when it comes to overcoming that resistance to change we talked about. It's about bringing everyone along on the journey, showing them the why behind the what.
So it's about building a culture of collaboration, not just with your suppliers, but within your own organization as well.
Exactly.
This is fascinating stuff. We're covering so much ground here.
I know, right?
Why don't we take a quick pause here, let everything sink in, and then we'll come back and really dive into the nitty-gritty of making strategic sourcing a reality.
Sounds like a plan.
We'll be back in a flash to continue this strategic sourcing journey. Don't go anywhere. And we're back, picking up right where we left off, talking about those strategic sourcing challenges.
Right, those moments where it's easy to get, like, stuck in your ways.
Totally. And I think one of the big ones that GlobeLink really highlights is, like we were saying, that resistance to change.
Oh, for sure. People get used to doing things a certain way, and it can be tough to switch things up.
Absolutely. And GlobeLink really stresses how important it is to get everyone on board, like early on.
Oh, yeah, from the get-go. If you don't have buy-in from your team, it's going to be an uphill battle the whole way.
So how do you actually do that? How do you bring everyone along on this, like, strategic sourcing journey?
Honestly, it boils down to communication.
Easier said than done sometimes.
It's true, but it's not just about like, hey, we're doing this new thing now, deal with it. You have to explain the why.
Show them the method behind the madness.
Exactly. What are the benefits? Not just for the company as a whole, but for their team, for their individual role.
So they can see how it actually impacts them.
Exactly. How is it going to make their lives easier, their work more impactful?
It's about connecting those dots. Big picture down to their day-to-day.
100%. And when people feel like they're part of the process, that they're being heard, they're much more likely to embrace it.
Makes sense. And speaking of embracing things, I'm ready to dig a little deeper into this whole supplier relationship management thing.
Okay. It's one of my favorite parts.
Because we were talking about it before the break, about moving beyond just like those one-off transactions.
Right. It's not just about exchanging money for goods and services.
Right. So what are we talking about here? Like, should I be sending my suppliers like holiday cards?
I mean, it couldn't hurt,
Okay.
but really it's about approaching these relationships with a spirit of partnership, not just procurement.
I like that.
Yeah, and it starts with communication. Open and honest communication.
So what, like, tell them your deepest, darkest secrets.
Maybe not that deep, but seriously, share your goals, be upfront about your challenges, but also be receptive to their feedback.
It's a two-way street.
Exactly. It's a conversation, not a monologue. And don't be afraid to think outside the box together.
Ooh, I like where this is going. Give me an example.
Okay, so maybe there's a new material or a new process they've been wanting to try. Or maybe you have insights into market trends that could benefit them.
So you're, like, helping each other out.
Exactly. It's about leveraging each other's strengths to achieve something even greater together.
It's like a strategic sourcing power couple.
I love that because that's where the real magic happens, in those collaborative spaces where everyone's working towards a common goal.
Okay, I'm all about that collaborative energy. But we've talked a lot about the human side of things. What about the data?
Oh, the data.
Because GlobalLink talks a lot about using data to make smart sourcing decisions.
For sure, data is essential, but it can be overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. It feels like we're living in this age of information overload.
100%.
So how do you even begin to make sense of it all? Like, where do you even start?
Right. It's like drinking from a fire hose sometimes. And that's where technology comes in.
Okay, so technology to the rescue.
Exactly. Technology is your friend. Think of it as your trusty data sidekick, helping you organize, analyze, and actually make sense of all that information.
Okay, I like the sound of that. So less like a fire hose, more like a
A refreshing glass of water.
perfect. So what kind of technology are we talking about here? What should our listeners be looking for?
Well, a robust supplier relationship management system is crucial.
Okay, an SRM. And what does that do exactly?
So imagine having like a centralized dashboard, and on that dashboard, you can track supplier performance, you can manage contracts, analyze your spending, even get alerts for potential risks.
Whoa. Okay, so it's like having X-ray vision into your entire supply chain.
Exactly. You can see everything that's going on all in one place.
That sounds incredibly helpful. But I imagine technology alone isn't enough, right?
Mhm.
You need someone who knows what they're doing to actually use it.
100%. It's not a magic button you push. You need the right people and processes in place.
Okay, so it's more like a,
It's more like
we need a better analogy.
I know, right? But you need the expertise to interpret that data, the procurement pros who can translate it into action. And you need a culture that actually values making decisions based on data.
Data-driven decisions for the win. I like it.
Right.
But it sounds like it doesn't have to be this massive undertaking.
Oh, right.
You don't have to do it all at once.
Exactly. Start small, focus on one area where better data management would make the biggest impact, and build from there.
Okay, that feels way less daunting. Baby steps.
Exactly.
But the payoff is worth it.
Oh, absolutely. When you have that solid data foundation, you can make smarter, faster decisions and really optimize your entire sourcing process.
Love it. This is great stuff. Okay, we've covered so much ground,
I know, right?
but I have a feeling there's still more to uncover. And we have to talk about supplier risk,
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
the elephant in the room.
You can't ignore it.
So when we come back, we're going to tackle that head on. We're going to talk about how to identify those risks,
Yeah.
how to mitigate them, how to make sure you're protected.
The dark side of sourcing.
But don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds.
We'll walk you through it.
Stay tuned. And we're back, ready to tackle the final piece of the strategic sourcing puzzle,
Let's do it.
supplier risk.
Yeah.
It's the one that can keep you up at night.
It's definitely something to be mindful of, but it doesn't have to be a deal breaker.
Okay, good, because I'm all about that positive energy. But seriously, where do we even begin with something like this? It feels kind of big and scary.
It's all about being proactive, and GlobalLink really emphasizes that supplier risk management, it's not just a one-time thing.
So it's not like check it off the list and forget about it.
Definitely not. It's an ongoing process.
Okay, so tell me more about this process. What does it actually look like in action?
So it starts with really thorough due diligence, even before you sign any contracts.
Okay, so background checks, but for suppliers.
Exactly. You're digging into their track record,
Yeah.
looking at their financials, what kind of reputation do they have.
Making sure they're legit.
Exactly. And it's not just about their business practices either.
Right. What about things like their ethics, their environmental impact? Do those things matter too?
100%. Those are more important than ever. Consumers care about that stuff.
Absolutely.
And honestly, it just makes good business sense. You want to make sure you're aligned with your suppliers on those values.
Right, you're literally associating your brand with them. So it's got to be a good fit all around.
Exactly.
Okay, so you've done your homework, you've thoroughly vetted your suppliers, made sure they're not hiding any red flags. But even then, stuff happens, right?
Unfortunately, yes. The world is unpredictable.
That's the understatement of the century. So how do you stay on top of things?
That's where that ongoing monitoring comes in. You have to stay informed.
So what are we talking about, setting up Google alerts for our suppliers?
Maybe. But seriously, keep those lines of communication open, stay up to date on any changes or potential issues, even when things seem to be going smoothly.
No news is not always good news. And this is where, again, that strong supplier relationship comes into play, right?
Huge. When you have that open communication, that trust, you're much more likely to catch those potential risks early on.
When they're easier to fix.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's all about being proactive, having those systems in place, But let's say hypothetically the worst case scenario happens. A supplier runs into trouble. What then? Is the whole strategic sourcing thing out the window?
Absolutely not. Remember how we talked about diversification?
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. By working with multiple suppliers, you're spreading the risk.
So if something happens to one, you're not completely dead in the water.
Exactly. You've got options.
Okay, that makes me feel way better.
Yeah.
So strategic sourcing, it's about being prepared for those unexpected bumps in the road.
Exactly. It's about building a supply chain that's resilient, adaptable, ready for anything.
I love it. We've covered so much ground on this strategic sourcing journey.
It's been quite a ride.
But as we wrap things up, what's the key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that strategic sourcing, it's not just a set of tactics. It's a mindset shift.
Ooh, I like that. So how do we make that shift happen?
It's about being proactive instead of reactive, collaborative instead of just transactional, thinking long-term, not just short-term.
So basically, it's about leveling up your entire approach to sourcing.
Exactly.
Love it. And I think Globelink puts it perfectly in their guide. They ask, how could a strategic approach to sourcing impact your specific goals and challenges?
It's the million-dollar question, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
And there's no one-size-fits-all answer. But we hope this deep dive has given you the tools and the inspiration to start asking those questions and find what works for you.
And if you're looking for more guidance, remember Globelink has generously provided their contact information at the end of their guide.
They're the experts after all, so don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, we're going to wrap up this strategic sourcing adventure. We hope you've enjoyed the journey. Until next time, keep those sourcing strategies smart and those supply chains strong.